Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't done so, why don't you hit the little subscribe button down here? It does help us out. On today's video, we're going to be looking at a PSP 2000 that has had some damage to the screen. The 2000 and the 3000 series PSPs are a little bit on the fragile side, and if you twist them hard, you can damage the screen without cracking it. It kind of shows up like water ripples. Fortunately, the screen's not horribly expensive and it's very easy to change. So why don't you stick around and see how it's done. Hey, welcome back to the channel. On the bench today we have a Sony PSP. This is a 2000 model. There's some different variants. The 1000s were known as the Fat. They were a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier. The 2000 and 3000, they're very similar in construction. They have just a pull open UMD door and they're a little bit lighter weight. But because they're built lighter, they're a tad fragile. So what we've got today, if you can see, is there's almost like a double image here at the edge of the battery, and you can see it here good on the World logo. And while this screen works, and you can absolutely play games on it, these screens just seem fragile, and you can damage them without cracking them. So today, the owners asked me to put a new screen in it. So the battery was low, and we have it plugged in. And by the way, these are great cables. I don't know how this combination came, but you have original Game Boy DS and SP, and then you have the two, this is a DS Lite, and then this has been the DS's from there on out. So DSi's, DSi XL, 3DS, new 3DS, 3DS XL, 2DS, 2DS XL, so on and so forth. But even though this is 3 Nintendo connectors, somebody decided it needed a PlayStation Portable connector on it, and I'm not going to complain because it charges a bunch of stuff here on the bench. So anyway, so this is where we're at. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off, and we'll get into it. First thing's to get this battery out and make sure there's no UMD in it, and there's not. So these are pretty easy. Now this one's already been opened before. You can see here, this is like a warranty sticker, and there's a screw behind it. So for the most part, this just comes apart with Phillips screws. They're pretty small, so magnification is always recommended. Oh, that's a tri-wing. This is my Phillips. And I'm not 100% sure these screws are even in the proper holes, but you know what, we'll figure that out as we go. Maybe we don't need magnification right now, just making things blurry. Okay, there's our back screws. Now on these you have a couple here and one down here. These two top ones should be relatively thin, yeah, and with different threads. So I want to keep those ones separate. Okay, and then the faceplate should lift off, like that. Normally your buttons and your speaker surrounds stick behind, and oops, looks like these buttons may have had a little crack in them, but they're still functional. The home button fell out. We'll address that when we put it back together. Okay, so from here, we have our buttons, and then the screen can come out. These are pretty straightforward. if you lift the snap, then it will lift out of this edge. Now on the 3000, some of these are captured and you got to pull this button back, but this isn't like that. So this one, we just need to use a small pick and get behind this and lift it out like that. Like that. It's out of the way. And then for the most part, the screen will lift. There is a tab on this side, but sometimes it just lifts out of it. And since the screen's damaged, I'm not real worried about it. But we'll get a spudger behind it and we'll just separate it out. Like that. This one's got one more. There we go. And from there, the screen folds out. These PSP screens are really pretty straightforward. On the 1000, the joystick stays with the cover. And like I said, on the 3000s, there's a couple screws you have to take to kind of lift this out of the way a little bit. So now we have two bails. One is for the backlight. Oh, not this one here. One is for the backlight. And then one's the main connector, and it's kind of big, so a little extra support is good so we don't crack it. And it comes out like that. And here's our new panel. Just arrived. It looks pretty nice. Looks like is there film on this one? Or is that just an anti-glare? I think it might just be anti-glare. See what happens. Since these aren't the factory screens, you never know what you might get. So make sure that ribbon's the whole way in. There is a mark, but it looks like the backer on this particular one doesn't line up with the mark correctly. So just make sure it's seated. And then use 2 fingers on these long ones. It should snap easy. If you're putting these on and you got to put any kind of real pressure on that bail, just stop, because they will break. If that cable's in, the bail should go down fairly smooth with just a teeny bit of pressure. And then our backlight, usually with some tweezers, you can get it lined up. Make sure the bail's up. There we go. And this one does actually line up. Here's our backer. The backer's here, and there's the mark in the case, if you can see it. My head's probably in the shot. And that bail should go down just like that. That's pretty much it with these guys. Just carefully fold it back. And make sure it's lined up. Oops. Make sure that, one thing to tell you, there is a metal support bar, and this will fall out if you're not careful. You know, just put it back in and everything should line up like that. Don't force anything. These, screens are delicate. So, you know what, before I really mash that home, I want to see if that's anti-glare or if that's a film that should come off. It's the first time using this particular brand. Also, I want to make sure there's no damage to this screen. Sometimes they get damaged in shipping. No, that's just anti-glare, and man, that one looks real nice. Okay, we're good. I'll take out the battery. Snap our button bar back into place. Double check all around the edge. Snapped in. Snap down. Okay, well, we're good. Just fits a little loose. That's the problem with some of these aftermarket screens. I don't Some of the systems you can get, you know, real Sony panels still, but most of them, they're just, you know, made in China. This one actually came from Amazon because these people were a little bit on the rush side. They wanted it back. So you pay a few dollars more, but honestly, Amazon, you can get it, you know, you can get them back, not back, but you can get parts shipped pretty quick. Okay. Since that button's loose, I'm gonna flip it this way. I'll get it the whole way down and snapped back into position. There we go. Now the button's in place. So let's go ahead and get our 2 top screws in. And our bottom screw. And our back screws. And that's pretty much it. You know, make sure everything feels right, nothing's sticking. Put our battery back in, needs charged, and we'll do that. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, these PlayStation Portables are pretty straightforward. The only part that's really hard to get into is the back of the UMD drive. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and please like and subscribe, and leave a comment below if there's any other videos you'd like to see or other content that you would like to know about. Thanks for joining us.